What's up, everybody, and welcome to the culmination, the final bonus VOD for D&D 5.0. It's done. It's over with. Season 1 is concluded.
Hello,
and whereas
YouTube.
we have a pretty cool launch platform for Season 2, what do you guys think the source of the power is for the Scions? What are you guys thinking? What do you think?
Before that happens, we do need to say, by the way, YouTube, you're seeing this because we have aftershows to nearly every video, but they're Patreon things. But at the end of the season, we'd like to think that the whole recap over the entire season should be kind of shared by everyone. So we kind of released the last bonus VOD as partly so that, you know, we can actually talk and go recap over the entire season. You can have that. And secondly, as kind of a teaser of, oh, look what you're missing on Patreon. But, you know, at least you get something for free, so who cares?
Yep, front and back. You get that beginning and that end. Today was a crazy episode. This was a stressful episode for me. Like, I was sweating like a horse going through, and I don't think horses sweat, so that's impressive.
They probably do. They're mammals, so...
I think horses sweat.
Must do.
Do they sweat? Because dogs don't, and cats don't.
Yeah, dogs don't, cats don't, foxes don't.
Well,
I think it's just
really
like apes
inefficient,
that do.
so maybe they just not very good at it, aren't they?
But they say ride hard, put away wet when it's in regards to riding a horse hella hard, and so I assume that they get sweaty.
I think that's us being sweaty on the horse.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Either way, that was a hell of an episode. I really liked the fact
Absolutely.
that my favorite part, just for me, talking about... So I want to go through the group. What are your favorite parts of this entire season? Like, we'll start with Shin. What was the favorite thing that ever happened the entire time?
The favorite thing that happened? It has to be this episode, because this episode, EE put on the girl's dress.
Ah!
It had
There you go.
There was so much leading up to that point to put on that dress, and finally he did. He's like, you know what? The season's ending. I'm putting on the dress.
You know what?
today."
I was contemplating popping into a charity shop and getting like a cheap dress or something, and I was like, you know what? I'll never use it. We're getting towards the end of the season. I'll never need it. And then I was like, wait, shit, I can actually do this.
Yeah. Bentham, what about you? What was your favorite thing that happened this season? What'd you like?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to it's one of those things that I'd have to watch back and like remember all the random awesome stuff that's happened.
Weak answer. Low energy.
I don't know.
Sad.
There's been loads of cool stuff.
Buzzer.
I mean, we're talking about this
X.
episode. I think the best part was the Titanic battle with Ibn Tarab fighting. I don't know. There was the two moments fighting the giant and also fighting Carrick. They were both awesome. I was imagining it as basically the opening Lord of the Rings fight towards the end.
Yeah, I wanted to
just fit
capture...
so well. The music was going in my head. It was great.
The big point of that fight is I wanted to basically place Ibn Tarab in the canon for how strong he is. Because you guys have seen him fight. You've seen him whoop everything. You get the fact that a lot of the enemies are afraid of him. And so he was better than Ermok. He dropped Ermok like Ermok wasn't even a thing. And he only broke his leg because he made a really bad reflex save
What did he
against
roll
when
on that?
Ermok was trying to... He rolled a 12.
Yeah, that's not terrible.
And that was with like a +9. So he rolled bad.
He rolled a 3. Yeah.
Because he's like level 18. So he's pretty strong.
In fairness
had a
to him,
lot
it's
of
not every
really
day you have
odd
to roll
rolls today.
agility to get out of someone's eye socket.
Yeah, rolls were pretty decent.
We had a bunch of people roll like almost 20s or nat 20s, and we had at one point 4 natty 1s in a row. That was weird.
I mean, when it mattered
Listen, I
against
did
Big
not get
Spider, we
any-
did well.
I did not get any critical failures. I rolled a few critical successes, and overall I succeeded everything I tried. This was the best session for me, rolls and like trying to come off as not flipping useless wise.
This was Gray's coming out episode. This is where he got to show off how fucking badass he is. And then Momo had to do him one up and go for 4 attacks on the spider.
And Momo had
whoop
to
that
spoil
thing.
it all by saying something stupid like second wind.
Yeah, dude. You dropped that
I had
spider.
to.
When that level up happened, I was thinking about taking another level of fighter just to get second wind, and I was like, no, I have to stay warlock. That's my connection to the Gray Lady, and I need to keep that connection going. So,
Yeah. What was your favorite moment? What did you like from this season that really stands out to you?
There are a few. I think that one of them, because it was newer that stands out, is the point where me and Gray had that heart-to-heart, and I was stuck under a boulder. And then, you know, we were talking, and I put the TNT under, and I sat back, and I felt like if I was a smoker, I would have started smoking and being really calm. And Gray was like, "No, we need to leave. This is why are you sticking around for?" I was like, "Trust me." And we had a heart-to-heart. I finally told some of my backstory, and then I got to be a badass by blowing up a load of Kizrathi. That was awesome. There was a little bit earlier. I can't remember what it was. There was something earlier. I was like, that was really badass as well.
The attack on the Croftwood Circle was awesome. That whole
Yeah,
sequence was
the
that
big
was it.
battle,
The two
yeah.
bits were the bit where I dive back into the fire in the same episode to save a Davi, because I felt like that is, who Dax is to an extent. Like, his life is like, his life is really redemption right now for the stuff he's done in the past. And when push him to shove, he has to just save people. He doesn't think about it. Not even on like a conscious level. He's not being heroic. He's just trying to redeem himself. And also the part where Mormont was going to get blown up by the giant sphere and stuff. And Dax had to dive over him and put the shield. And you were like, no, you can get away. And I was like, no, Dax would do it. And I was like, this is who Dax is. It was really awesome to be able to get that out as a role-playing moment.
Yeah.
That said, I do really remember a Davi killing my dog.
Yep.
Yeah, that was concerning. I was really looking to use that dog to just berate you the entire game. That dog was just going to fuck with you mercilessly for like weeks. Like, he's going to be such an asshole, but he's going to be your asshole.
If a Davi hadn't killed him right then, he would have killed him at some point over the next couple weeks. He would not have put up with that shit.
Probably.
Daleric, what was your favorite part? What did you like about this season since you've joined us?
Yeah, no, it was already touched on, but it was that heart-to-heart moment with EE and myself. But the reason why it was so important to me is my character. I mean, I knew of the party, or at least a certain extent of the party, and how it is you guys role play and stuff like that prior to my coming into the game, and I intended to come in with a very like serious character, a very hard character, and when you have like a party that's not accustomed to that, and then because we're on Twitch, viewers that are not accustomed to that, I was like, I know I'm going to be disliked at first. This just goes without saying. And so when I finally got to explain myself a little bit, my own backstory coming out, having that heart-to-heart with EE and his backstory coming out, and just like that really big bonding moment, that was kind of, I felt as though a turning point for the perception of Gray. And, okay, he's just like a super religious militant, idiot. He's just a douche. I finally expelled out why. Like, why is he so goblin? Like, why is he make these comments of goblins? Why is he mean to Dax? Well, he was literally like an Adonis of a character. He was this wonderful warrior that was and he took an obsidian spear to his side by goblins, but now kind of like learning their backstory, he was able to soften a little bit. He comes off as over the top religious because his god literally speaks to him, but in speaking to Dax and how incredibly religious he is, but with the way that he got into it, he softened on Dax's seemingly not frivolent, but like loose ties to the Gray Lady. So I don't know, it was just a really good moment where I got to express who Gray really is and really kind of blend into the party. It was good fun. But I mean, after that moment, like, so stuff with combat up until that point was D&D combat. I have to say though, my secondary thing was literally every combat after that. You as a DM kind of like pulled the stops and made like more of unique combats. So it wasn't just roll initiative, attack and kill the thing, roll initiative. There was like more aspects to it. And so it allowed our characters to kind of stand out a little bit more with decision making, RPing while in the middle of combat and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Very cool.
By the way,
my favorite
the
moments...
Skype call is dying right now. So if we could just reboot Skype, recall Skype, and continue this, I'll just put it on there. We'll be back right in a second, guys.
Are we recording?
We're good. Hello.
My favorite parts, there's a couple. I mean, I'm always a sucker for dwarves. Dwarves mean a lot to me in terms of D&D because they're the characters that I've always played since I was like a kid. Like, I'm always a dwarf. I love dwarvish culture. I love how they're very stoic. I love the fact that there's sentimentality in dwarvish culture, though. Like, there's a tremendous, because you can't have a group of people that are all about tradition and all about doing what we've always done without a huge dose of sentimentality. But with a race that's stoic like that, you don't get it from them very often. I think that sets up dwarves to have amazing RP moments where for a moment, like, the armor cracks and you kind of have like those brief moments where dwarves are like, we're stoic all the time, but here's a little bit of emotion. One of my favorite things happened today. I very much liked giving the armor to Mormont. I'm glad you guys split the loot up like that. Because actually during today, it sucks because we ran over by like 30 minutes, but he was supposed to have like a real heart-to-heart with Ollie and with Halsgard about kind of like the nature of like war and like stoicism and stuff like that as they were walking through the battlefield afterwards with the caravans, and we just ran out of time, so it didn't get to happen. But I'm glad that I got to inject some of that sense of tradition into the back end of the episode where, you know, he gives him the armor, and this is very much like a cool thing. Like, a young beard is not supposed to have this, but the young beard did something that was before his years, before his time, and so the older dwarves, just kind of with an approving nod, they make this wonderful, like, master-crafted thing for him that makes him stand out among his people now. Like, if he went back to the mainland and he wore that among his people, you would expect to hear, like, whispers and murmurs among, like, the older dwarves about just, like, yeah, you heard how he earned that? Apparently there was some like giant spider machination thing, you know, and like he would gain honor for having this item among his people. Other favorite moments, I loved it when Dax fell into the toilet because it was one of those things that was totally avoidable, and yet you just kept pushing.
You
were
like, gave me every opportunity.
Going in there, man.
You gave me every opportunity to avoid it. You let me roll like 2 times. You let a Davy roll to like help out. Every roll failed. Like, I agree as a GM. It's just, you know, sometimes the world wants shit to happen.
I loved the speech that you gave to the Croftwood. That's another one of my favorite moments where the Croftwood was definitely looking to exit this and be out of here and protect their people and kind of become isolationists. And you gave a really, really good speech as to why that should not happen and why everybody should band together. And while in some ways it was a bit of a fantasy trope, at the same time, in that moment, you needed the druids. And so the trope had to happen with a little twist right there where, you know, you had that bang-up roll. I think you rolled like a 25 or a 26 on your persuasion when you gave like the rousing speech to everybody, and you got that super awesome like cheer and howl from the community as they kind of rallied behind the leader, and as a secondary fact, rallied behind you even though you were an outsider. I mean, I loved the first episode with the opening on the boats where you were racing the Hellenians, who actually the Hellenians didn't play a big part in this because we didn't talk about, nobody checked and was like, what happened to the Hellenians down there on the beach? Nobody checked, and so the Hellenians will have in the second season. In general, though, a lot of fun. I really enjoyed today being able to show you how powerful Karak was, because that was alluded to in the past, and just allowing, you know, even to Rob to flatten something that you know is like super powerful like Ermok, and then shortly thereafter him being wounded, just watching him get decimated and have to fall back on a trump card to win by sacrificing himself. That's something that actually that's been planned since the beginning of the campaign. Even to Rob, that was kind of his culmination to kind of show off how strong he was and also how in tune with the gods he is. He's probably the only person that Gray's ever met who believes Gray and is like, yeah, you can speak to a god. I meditate all the time and I hear and see the strings of everything she wills all the time. She doesn't speak to me, but I see the connections between things through the power she's given me. And so as far as that goes, who do you think... so you guys know that the Council of Six, well, formerly the Council of Seven, they have a patron. What do you think the patron's going to be? Who do you think the one leading them is going to be?
I mean, I can't even answer that because I don't have that far enough of backstory.
It will be the son of Amalith and the Grey Lady.
Okay.
That's Aedmund, isn't it?
The son of Amalith and the Grey Lady is Aedmund, and then their chief prophet, their Jesus messianic figure, is Saint Dromaeus, who is basically, his line is still the emperor's over in Graustein, continued for X thousand many years. He's the one that slew Balmunder using the gifts that the Grey Lady gave him and Amalith gave him, the Black Dragon, when he tried to invade the plane. And so, what about the rest of you? You got any guesses who is hiding behind the throne of the Council of Seven?
Sounds a bit like the Grey Lady's got something to do with it, just because that was like her power was specifically mentioned by Ibn Tarab at the end.
I'm so bummed out you guys don't get to meet Mother Magatha yet. Mother Magatha was... I thought when you write a campaign like this for the audience, I wrote everything that happened here before the campaign even started. Like, this entire storyline is just a flowchart that I have going to the end.
Parts we messed with, like you said for the Croftwood, we changed that by showing up early.
Yeah, Croftwood battle would have never happened if you guys hadn't pushed it and double-timed all the way there. There were a number of things that were completely and totally improvised based on random things that you guys did along the way. Like today, with regards to the big spider, I didn't think you guys were going to beat the big spider that much. Like, I thought the big spider was really going to test you guys a lot
Momo
better.
got the flow. You know
Momo
what I
got
mean?
the job done. Momo said,
you
"Fuck that spider."
You leveled me up. This is what happens.
This is what happens. No, Momo got the flow. He's like, we gotta go.
Yeah, 54 damage is kind of crazy. And that's, you didn't even use your -10, your -5 for +10 damage with Great Weapon Master. Like,
yeah, thank God.
I always worry about that because it might screw up and
I don't know, when
I'll
I'm
just
giving you
miss with
+4
everything.
from Bless as well, like it's probably worth it. Like you've got so many good stats now. Like level 5 is when fighters get good. Until that point, monks out DPS them. But as soon as you hit like level 5, we're fighter.
I was hoping I'd get some crits because, like, when you get a crit, you could do another attack. So I could have got it up to 5 if I'd managed to get any of them be crits, but it was all
Fighters
close.
can line up to be real killing machines now. They used to be boring auto attack drones, and nowadays, if you dip properly with a fighter, good lord, they can become just killing machines by level 15, 16, where it's just like, how do we stop this thing? He's resistant to everything. He's got more magical items that we know how to get through, and that's when the DM's got to start breaking out those big things like those modified drakes and whatnot to like put you on your toes.
I mean, the difference with fighter is the fighter can have like a high AC, whereas barbarians suffer a little bit in that regard. Like, not massively, but...
Barbarians are scary too.
Well, actually, it's pretty cool because I've been acting as the party tank, trying to take as much damage as possible. And the way I do that is I have my -3 to all slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning attacks against me. And then every once in a while, I can give myself that resistance to those attacks. But now with Mormons getting that armor and being able to take over at least half of the tanking position, that's going to be great with party strategy moving forward. So I can be more offensive than defensive all of the time. You know what I mean? So it's cool because, as you had said, because enough time's going to pass, we can just kind of like change up our spell book or whatever. I can slightly change the structure of the character and allow Momo to get in the way of those hits every once in a while for me.
Are you using the spider leg anymore, or are you using the hammer?
I have both of them written on my character. But my question actually, this is a really good question to ask. That spider leg, does it require attunement or not? And the reason why I ask is if it requires attunement, that means as long as it's on me, it gives me the resistance to fear. If it does not, then it's when it's in my hand. That's why I would say it's actually whatever you say, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's when you have it equipped, you're going to have the resistance to fear. So if you're using that specifically instead of the hammer, I'd say that actually, given the +2, you're probably better off using the spider leg against high AC enemies, enemies that use a lot of fear effects, and you're better off using the hammer against squishy enemies like slimes and whatnot that, you know, getting that extra D6 in there so you're doing 3D6 on a hit. No, it doesn't. I don't like attunement rules, so in general, I don't use them.
The hammer is probably what I would use most of the time. And then I would pull out the spider leg when we're fighting, castery kind of characters. So like demons, the blah, blah, blah.
That said, the spider leg isn't like an enchanted weapon or anything. It's just naturally awesome. Maybe we could get like Holsgard to like break it down to other weapons. Maybe make some armor from it.
Yeah, or throw the enchantment onto it that makes it even stand out better than that hammer.
I'm just saying that I'm tempted to get the feat, which is medium armor master, because that would allow me to have an AC, including the ring, of 21.
Yeah, not gonna lie, I thought you were gonna give that to Adavi. I figured that was an Adavi reward.
No, Adavi gets the book.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have very few damaging spells. There's no point in me having the damaging spells. Adavi could use that much more than me.
Yeah.
Like,
and we didn't pull like the douchey. Well, he's leaving anyways. He got magic items. It was appropriate.
Yeah, it's all good.
Instantly, I see the book. That's an Adavi thing. Like, damage.
I don't know what to give. I don't know what to give the audience in this episode as closure because I don't know if we're coming back to season 2, and so there's so many secrets and things that I just want to reveal and be like, oh well, this is this and this is this.
Maybe eventually.
Would you want to GM again? How do you feel about your times GMing?
GMing is fun, but it's high stress. It's a difficult job because you want to make sure people are entertained. You never want to sit at the table and feel like people are tuning out. That to a GM is the worst feeling ever when you've got like 1 or 2 players that are just like, and they're just not feeling whatever's going on. It's happened a couple times for Roll4It with a couple of our different missions and a couple of our different seasons where you can tell like half the party is tuned out and they're just like, yeah, whatever, do what you want. I just want to get to the end of this. And that's the worst thing that can happen as a DM. And so
Absolutely.
That's the part that scares me the most is that comes through on camera a lot. And I'm always terrified that I'm going to leave somebody out. They're going to feel like whatever's happening is not interesting. And maybe I just didn't plan it right. You know what I mean? And to a lot of cases, you can actually ramp that up by adding interesting, you take sprinkles and you put sprinkles of backstory in there. If you find somebody that's tuning out, you say, okay, well, in their backstory, they're interested in this, this, and this. All right. So maybe you find a dwarf corpse in there if it's Mormon. Mormon is not feeling this mission. Well, for whatever reason, there's a dwarf corpse in here, and it has some particular traditional value or kind of relic value, and it really gets Mormon thinking. It gets him back into this. Well, like, oh, my people have a beef against this. Or in the case of Daleric, drawing you back in would just be to promise you a glorious death. Like, if your character's bored, throw a glorious death in there, and Gray's just like, glory! And he goes for it, like, all out, like, because he wants to die. That's his ultimate goal, is he just wants to die like a badass.
Yeah, I sent you that backstory forever ago. It was literally more or less my character's looking for death. So, written a little better. But
And so, anyways, I would consider GMing again in the future, but I'm gonna need like a tune down time. I really sincerely am. I actually, when we finished this off, I felt a weight lift off where I'm like, okay, I get a little bit of relaxation time now because my Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays for the last 5 months have just been me panicking and trying to figure out what I want to do with the next episode and how to keep you guys engaged. And so it's a lot. I'm sure EE can attest to that since you've never taken a break. It could be scary sometimes pitching a new idea to your players and being like, are they going to take the bait?
A week now.
Yeah, you're better at it than I
hey,
am.
I'm doing 3 a week right now. I'm doing 3 a week right now.
No,
Come on.
Splat, regarding all the stuff that you want to talk about that you don't really know if you should talk about, what about stuff that you know is ending after this first season? Stuff that we missed that you can tell us about.
Oh, what questions did you have? Like maybe about the teeth of the maw. What did you want to know what happened down there? Because I can tell you what happened down there.
Sure, go for it.
So you're supposed to go to the maw. And when you went to the maw, you were going to come across a fishing hut that had those 5 adventurers in disguise, acting like fishermen in this little tiny fishing village that they had built as a decoy. That were just going to be down there, and they're going to be fishing, and it was all going to be friendly, and they were going to kind of passively quiz you and try to figure out what you were on about. And based on the clues that you presented them, they were going to give each other worried looks and be sort of like, shit's not adding up. We took this job, and we're getting paid really well right now just to sit here and babysit this cave. But we keep seeing weird shit going on in the cave. The pay is good enough to where we've been turning a blind eye to it right now, a little bit neutral style. But all of us are leaning kind of good, leaning kind of lawful, and I think we've been had. And ultimately, when you guys didn't show up, their curiosity got the best of them. And so they went into the cave, and then they found a massive summoning circle that was conjuring all of the fog that was happening down there. They uncovered... You guys never went back to the apothecary. And so when you went back to the apothecary's apprentice was supposed to have a black eye and be hella beat up. And he was going to be like, yeah, when I brought this nut to my master, she flew into a rage and just beat me. She just flew into a rage and told me never to bring anything like that around here again. And then I followed her, and she went to the maw. And so they uncovered the fact that they were using those seeds as part of an incantation to keep the fog going, which weakens the immune system of everybody in the area, makes it easier as they breathe it for them to infect them with the weeping rot and make the effects amplified. They went in there. When they destroyed the circle, they fought a big Cthulhu monster that was made out of the grasp, which you guys were supposed to fight. A big kind of octopus Cthulhu grasp monster.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Your memories. Yeah, it absorbs your memories and a whole bunch of other stuff whenever it hits you, so that's feeding the Kizrathi information now about you. Like, they know everything about you after this thing hits you with a hit. Like, they know everything about Dax, because he touched it that one time, and that's how they transmit their thoughts and their feelings and everything else is just by being in contact with it. And so they got into a big battle down there, and in killing it, they collapsed a portal that was trying to crawl through. It was going to add on to that big battle. That's where they brought the big tentacle thing that they showed you guys when they were there. Didn't really have time to expand upon it, but it was supposed to be this big soul-searching thing where you had an option. You could fight this other party to get access to the cave, but you legitimately had an option to provide them with proof that confirmed their suspicions and their fears, which would have made them roll in there with you, and we would have big 10-man fight where you would have seen kind of this other party, level 5, level 6 warriors fighting alongside you to kill this big multi-tentacled Cthulhu monster that I had set up.
The one time my persuasion could have been like legit straight up useful.
Well, I mean, you convinced crowds, you convinced armies. You did pretty well with it this time.
I feel really bad that we didn't go to the teeth now. That's awesome.
Yeah, it did sound pretty awesome. Yeah. That's our fault.
But that's why the fog was gone when you guys arrived back on.
We just kept reading letters that were like, the teeth are really important, and seeing people like, hey, have you been to the teeth? And we're like, now we're busy.
Yeah, things kind of got away from us towards the end. They were like, no, we have to just sprint this, like shit's going down.
Fun.
Other little things is the Hellenians had been intermittently abducted and drained of their blood. That's how you got some of the bigger Kizrathi that had been showing up in some of the previous fights as their Hellenian hybrids. As far as Mathis's character, I haven't killed him yet. He still exists.
Yeah.
They're off doing something right now that you guys don't know what they're doing, but they took back to the sea. You were supposed to... So I thought this campaign was going to go a lot quicker. If it had in the forest in the Croftwood, something's going to happen at the beginning of Season 2 that should be interesting to introduce you to a new ancillary character. I never got to introduce the idea of the Pathfinder, the Key, Atlas, and a number of other characters in this playthrough, although I meant to sprinkle it in a little bit more as part of the world lore, is that there's kind of like these legendary characters that exist aside from the Scion, who have very specific things that for whatever reason only they can do on the island. Like the Pathfinder is the only person that can do a certain thing. Atlas is the only person that can do a certain thing. The Key is the only person that can do a certain thing. And with those three people, they might not even know that they are Atlas. They might not know that they are Pathfinder. They might not know that they are the Key. And you guys would have to find them, realize their talent is like ridiculously high above everybody else in whatever it is that they do, and be like, hey, you want to help us do this thing that requires the Pathfinder? And they'd be like, the Pathfinder? What the shit is that? And they'd be like, we think it might be you.
I'm just getting Mass Effect Andromeda flashes now. This is getting worrying.
Oh, that's funny. I was thinking very Dalai Lama. Like, you know how there's the two people that have to always find each other for all eternity throughout reincarnations.
That's the rough idea.
That's the kind of feeling I was getting. Is it's
like
you don't know you're it until you're found by the one that's supposed to find you. You know.
And if the Pathfinder dies, someone is immediately born who becomes the new Pathfinder and like inherits that talent. So you always have the Pathfinder.
So, kind of like the Slayer from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, hey, there you go.
Hey, never seen it, but I'm familiar with the Dalai Lama part.
Are you kidding me? I mean, that's friggin' from Boston there. Oh my god, I had like the biggest boy crush on her as a kid growing up. What's her name? Not Sarah Michelle Gellar. The second Slayer there. What the hell's her name? The one who played Faith. Eliza Dushku.
No, she's the third Slayer. The second Slayer dies in...
Yeah, that's right.
Season
that's
1.
right. The other girl. But I'm sorry. So Eliza Dushku, and then she goes evil for a while. I mean, we're talking from Buffy to Bring It On to Dollhouse. I mean, everything Eliza Dushku. And you, shame on you, sir, for not watching all of Buffy and Angel just to squeeze in every moment of Eliza Dushku.
Sometime I will GM a Buffy the Vampire Slayer RPG.
Wow.
And Splat can be like one of the people who's like, I have no idea what's going on. Explain it to me. And it'll be brilliant because he will have no idea.
If you're GMing it, then we have to have Bentham play the Giles-esque character because he's got the accent.
Yes.
Sorry. Nationalism, I'm sorry.
We go.
I'll be like, what is it, season 2 or season 3? Buffy's boyfriend is from that like dumb military group that always gets in the way. Yep, I'll play the dumb military guy.
That's I actually had to go with the RPG for that. Like, it's not a greatly written RPG because you've got people who are fighters and people who are the Scoobies, like they're the intelligence people, and they're very separate. And it's like, at the same time.
And you have Xander. Anyways, guys, I know you want to continue doing this and chat and whatnot. I have to hard out because I'm going live soon and I want to kiss my daughter goodnight. So
do your thing, man. Take care of the family. We'll see y'all later. Thank you for being a part of season 1, dude. It's been a blast.
Yeah. Are you character creation on Tuesday for Stars About Numbers?
I'll talk to you. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, the Kizrathi are going up north to fight the orcs because the orcs have landed and they have been a problem for the Kizrathi. They don't like the orcs at all. And the Kizrathi don't like the orcs in turn. And the orcs are the only ones that can potentially outbreed the Kizrathi. They both breed at ridiculous rates and just expand like weeds. And so the Kizrathi, they got to give up on Woodley for right now and head to the north. You also never met gnomes. Gnomes were coming in a little bit later. There's an entire gnomish community. One of the Scions is a gnome.
No.
One of the Scions is a gnome. One of the most powerful wizards to ever live.
Oh, no.
But yeah, any other questions that you guys like? What about with this campaign, did you feel like your characters were appropriately utilized? Did you feel like you guys got opportunities to flesh yourselves out?
Yeah. Yeah. I got to be goofy and stupid, which is all I ever wanted to be.
I felt like you really got the stick, man, Shen, because Nasan was such an intrinsic part of everything that I had written. When he stepped out, like half the plot folded. And I spent like a week just being like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Because everything was based on you and the Kizrathi trying to get your blood because you have draconic blood, which they have never had access to before. Karak was supposed to have a monologue, once again ran out of time, where he was going to talk about how he's drunk the blood of angels and immortals. And just to kind of give you an idea of how they get their power, like I said, they absorb people. Well, Karak keeps the more interesting things to himself. And he's actually drank the blood of an Azamar. He's drank the blood of a greater demon, and that's how he's so powerful. The only thing he has not drank is the blood of a dragon. And so that's what he wants more than anything else is the blood of a dragon.
Yeah,
it's a good thing that Adavi's clueless then, because otherwise he'd be peeing his pants constantly. He'd probably be trying to get money together to get a boat to get off this damn island.
Yeah, a similar thing happened with Shadowrun in that I'd written the story of this whole like underplot, this massive subplot involving Pseudo's background and season 1 and dragging that on. But luckily we were early enough on that I could chop that without anyone really noticing. But sadly,
my goal, once you got back to Woodley, was to play Nasan against Adavi as hard as possible. I was going to make it required because the spear, he was going to take warlock levels. The spear was going to be the source of his warlock levels, and he doesn't know what's trapped inside of there.
But that's
Truth of
season
the matter
2.
is,
That can still happen in season 2.
It's a little far gone. It's a little far gone.
Aw.
The spear was basically going to constantly be like, if you want warlock power, go get some of Adavi's blood and just tell him the monastery wanted it. And then once you've got the blood, drop it off with the Kisrathi. Otherwise,
wait, the spear works with the Kisrathi.
Well, it's evil, so we
was
did
in their
find
shrine.
it in the Kisrathi armory. If we think about it, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We sort of forgot about
But
that.
it was
I'm
made
pretty
by
sure-
people who weren't them. Like, it was look fancy, didn't it?
I'm pretty sure that particular episode, everyone, out of character, of course, was aware that something was fucking wrong with this spear. But in character, none of us had a fucking clue.
it wants out. He did a great job lying to all you guys. Nasan the lie detector with those wisdom rolls, just keeping you guys away from that thing as much as possible. But yeah, the spear wants out. The spear, whatever's in the spear, it wants out, and it's not particularly fond of Karak.
Karak's brother.
Oh.
Oh, it was fun,
Might
though.
still be on our side then, enemy of our enemy.
It's kind of on your side. I always wanted it to toe the line where whatever it is, it's working in collusion with you, but it's working with you to the detriment of one party member to strengthen another party member to some unknown goal. And since Nasan's probably the only person you would give your blood to, if he said it was from the monastery and it was part of like some magical ritual or something like that, the general course was to be like, all right, so Nasan, you have like 48 hours to do this thing that the spear told you to do. If you don't do it, when you try to cast warlock stuff, you'll keep your hit dice, but your warlock stuff just will not work. I was going to do the same thing to Daelric. If you don't please the Grey Lady and do everything she says, that's what happens when you play a warlock. You have pact magic. If you betray that pact...
It's a similar thing for a cleric. Like, if you go against your beliefs and you do lots of dodgy stuff, eventually it'll go.
Yeah. But Nasan never got to play that entire line because, his injury took him out at a time where it was just like, that was a major plot line that was going to be running alongside you guys going up to the mine and everything else like that. Like, it was going to be like a major thing that he was working against. The spear was going to play into the final battle. There was going to be a whole bunch of interesting things that happened regarding that stuff. And it was just like, wow, that's all gone now. So I guess I'll have it fold all back on Ibn Tarab. We'll put the weight on his shoulder. And then as a downside, I never got to play around with Shen's story as much as I wanted to, just because Nasan and Shen were a unit, Maybe.
Ooh.
His disappearance definitely affected things in a way that was to your detriment, as far as the spear gave you an in with the Kisrathi that could have been played against. Whatever's in the spear has authority with the Kisrathi that directly challenges Karak's authority. So you can extrapolate from there.
You just end up becoming the new leader of it. You turn evil in the process. It's like, well, crap, we just traded bad guys.
It's an anthropomorphic spear. Someone's just going to carry it around. It's going to be like Skyscream carrying around Megatron as a gun and just shooting him.
In addition, I assume Nasan, being the heretic that he is, I assume he would get around that. I was also, once he found out about this, he's very loyal to Adavi. For whatever reason, he has no loyalty to anybody else, but he likes Adavi, and he knows he's got a job to do. And so that was going to be his major conflict, is that he's trying to work a way around the spear to trick it, maybe, to get it to kind of reveal secrets, while at the same time giving it a bare minimum and dragging his feet the whole time. Only using it a minimal amount. Once he realizes up to no good, he's going to keep it on his back and not use it as much. I was going to give him a pair of magical sun wheels like he had at the beginning, so that, he had the temptation to be like, shut up, spear, and put it on his back and kind of get away from it for a minute. And so it was one of those just little subplots that just never got worked on.
Speaking of heretics, a similar thing happened with Carolinus in Dark Heresy, in that he had a large subplot that was about to be revealed, in that the bad guy at the end you fought, the Mechanicus guy, he was going to be his uncle's protege, and it was going to turn out that his uncle was kind of more a heretic than he let on, and then he'd have that whole back and forth about what to do about that.
I talked him down off the cliff. I did the right thing.
But then Carolinus died, and that eliminated that entire plotline, and he just came up and you had to fight some heretic instead of, this heretic is, by the way, the uncle's surrogate son instead of you.
Yeah, Cassius was a heretic, but he's not like a heretic's heretic. he's basically just a very liberal inquisitor if he was headed in that direction. And so he knows there's a line you don't cross. Pretty sure that books that eat human flesh are that line. There are lines. Alien technology, if we can use it, maybe. Books that eat human flesh, there's no rebranding.
Oh man,
it's gotta
that book
go,
was gonna
man.
be amazing.
It's gotta go.
What that book was gonna do.
We never
is...
found Brander's leg, did we?
we wanted to give the book 3 different types of blood. I never told you this, but one of the blood was mundane blood from a normal human being. He gave the book that. So that was the book's first level. Second one was the blood of a psyker. I was hoping he was going to give the book Splat's blood. He never gave the book that, sadly. And the third one was blood of a null.
Which is the Inquisitor, and so that would have been following the battle.
But,
yeah,
it was more of a eventually maybe this will happen, but it could have been and I was hoping that eventually more things would happen, and particularly stuff like the blood of the null would have done some stuff that I hadn't really pinned down, but the blood of the psyker would have given the book access to be able to affect stuff outside of its body. It would have been able to start having powers outside, but it would also give you knowledge.
Was there a demon in there?
No, but it was the essence of part of the demon who you fought later. Not part of the demon himself, but because it was written in his biography and it was effectively dictated through someone else, it was almost a first-hand biography. The power in there kind of created its own essence, kind of created a demon itself from him.
Huh.
But it's more like
the effects.
Minion.
The effects of the crosswood, you guys might be wondering, how did the druids affect things? How did that matter? It mattered. The humans were going to lose that battle. But you guys bringing the crosswood on board gave them what they needed to make a safe retreat. If they had not been there, they would have actually lost the battle, and you would have had to take the carts in full retreat. Adborough would have died in the combat.
No.
He was going to be a casualty. He was actually going to join the field, but since you guys had the druids on your side, I placed him at the front gate where he was safe. Otherwise, he was going to be riding with Ibn Tarab at the front lines because they had shared battlefields before. Yeah, so nice job with the Croftwood. You saved Lieutenant Adborough.
Yay!
My intent was to kill every NPC, and you guys saved a startling number of them. Ollie was supposed to die. Ollie was supposed to get blown to bits.
Ollie might still be dead. He has internal injuries and is septic and shit, and we spent way too long underground.
Ollie was supposed to die heroically. He was supposed to set the plunger, and the spider wasn't close enough to him because you guys sent him off early. The spider wasn't close enough. And so when the spider came in, he was supposed to get one-shotted by the spider on the first turn. And basically, you guys were going to get everything rigged in that fight, and Ollie was going to be like, go. And he was going to heroically push the plunger, collapse the thing. His helmet was going to bounce off in the explosion in front of Mormond. Mormond was going to pick it up, and that helmet was going to give Mormond immunity to fear because he would remember the sacrifice of a comrade whenever he wore it and be like, I want to live up to that because that's what dwarves want to do. They want to die like Daelric does in glorious victory. And so that was supposed to be one of the items you got from that quest, but you guys kept it alive, so I made it an infusion, a part of the spider leg instead, because I still wanted you guys to get the same bonus.
That's pretty cool.
That's a Davi's fault that Ollie actually ran away from the combat and actually did useful stuff. That was all on Shen there. I completely forgot. I was like, oh yeah, that's actually a good idea.
It seemed like a good idea at the time.
It was a good idea.
You guys did a heroic thing that I was proud of where you guys got rid of the orb. The orb was supposed to get somebody. That was its final self-destruct mechanism, is that it had one of those orbs that was powering it inside that they had actually manifested inside that spider, and that's why it was slowly converting into a Kizrathi. It's one of their siege weapons. He only got to fire it at you once with that fireball. You guys rolled masterfully well right there, so it's ultimate kind of Ultima weapon, basically. You guys just shut that down. You were like, oh, we get out of the way. And then Gray, with that throw that was 5 feet far enough away to save Mormond. Nice. Very, very nice.
Yeah, in a moment where I'd run away from the orb, and then it got thrown to in front of me, and I'm like, this has gone wrong.
That bless came in useful.
I'm wondering if that nickname's going to stick around. Momo, do you like it?
I like Momo.
I like Momo. I think it's good.
It's a certain nice quality.
It's good as well, because into this episode, he went in with a melted face. And out of the episode, he came out with a destroyed face. It was the other side of his face, right? So he was...
And the back of the head as well, a bit.
Yeah,
I was hoping you would lose a leg so that you would die to the explosion. I'll be honest. The dark side. Part of me as a DM wanted you to die in the last episode so that you had to come back in season 2 with a new character. And I was hoping when you rolled the dice, you'd lose a leg. And so you'd be stuck on the ground, and then the orb would blow up, and then that would be the end of Mormond. The glorious death.
He rolled a natty 1 on that wound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if the leg thing would have happened, like Dax would have had to go over and start trying to save him, and then that would have been bad, man.
Yep, that was the plan. But you rolled and you got a busted eye. You're blind in one eye now, but that makes you more badass as a dwarf. You got a dwarf with one eye missing. You know he's seen some shit. Like, the dwarf shows up with one eye. You're like, this guy's definitely trustworthy in combat. His entire face has been raked off.
Also,
every time we meet, like,
really intimidating.
Every time, like when we go meet Nosson after the battle, he's just gonna look at me and be like, "I could have sworn it was the other side. What?" Just be massively confused.
No, you guys have done really well during this campaign. I was worried about that fireball shot, one-shotting the party, because on a bad roll it would have. But that saving throw, that boss fight could not have gone better than I planned. Like, that was the only fight this entire season that went perfectly at the challenge rating that I desired. There was no, like, major fuck-ups. The creature, you guys were whittling through him as fast as he was whittling through you. He had another fireball that he had prepared. And as he got to like 5, 10 HP, he was definitely going to unleash it. But you guys, I mean, especially Mormon, good God, with that action surge. What a turn.
Yeah, like I direct attacked it once, and I did like a really good roll with like necrotoxin, and I did like 14 damage. And I was like, I'm going to go back to hiding behind a rock. He got this.
I wanted to use the what's it called? Over-leveled. When you cast above its level, I wanted to do the 5d8 with the chromatic orb on that thing. I couldn't hit a damn thing. I rolled like a 6 or something. It's like, are you kidding me? And that's with Bless on it too. Like, oh well.
That's one of my big arguments with them getting rid of, or them adding attack rolls for a lot of spells, is that it makes mages feel less explosive. Like, the thing about mages in older versions of D&D is that mages were guaranteed damage a lot of the time. Like, they didn't have attack rolls. A lot of the stuff that they did, it hit. And the caveat to that is that it did a ton of damage, but they could only do it a couple of times. And it led to mages being bored a lot of the time. And so that's why they changed it, where mages are like, I guess I use my +1 sling then, like half the time, because they're afraid to use their spell slots. In 5th edition, that's one of my complaints, is that a lot of the attacks that are really good, they rely on the enemy's armor class. And it's just like, even with a good roll, if you have like a +6, hitting a 17 AC or a 16 AC can still be a challenge for a character with that bonus if he's having an off day. And so, like, that chromatic orb, he probably would have fired the fireball a lot earlier if that had hit, because I would have panicked as a DM and been like, they need to see what this thing's capable of. Deafening it made it stop attacking, in case you didn't notice that. It stopped using its melees, but it was still able to target spells using like an inherent like smell sense type thing that spiders have.
Blindside,
it was kind of snaking. Yeah, it was snaking you guys out, but it couldn't target. As a caveat, I wanted it to do something, so I made it stop using its 1d8 plus 4 melee attacks every single turn, which I think would have got Gray on the next turn. Gray does not have a great armor class, and once you get through his temporary HP and through his resistance...
Doesn't he have like a 17 or something?
Yeah, but I mean, 3 attacks, something's going to get through.
Yeah, it was 3 attacks at +8, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a pretty good critter. He was pretty tough. I'll post that to the Patreon, or to the patrons up on the Patreon, so that they can see the monster stats, because I got a cool little thing that lets me make stat cards for D&D stuff.
When I saw it survive the will test, and it had like a +7 or something to its will, I'm like, oh, I didn't expect a spider to have a +7.
Yeah, when that happened, I just looked at my spellbook and went, nope. Just threw it away.
Imbued with the essence of the stone.
Saves.
It was really strong. Yeah, it was super strong versus magic. It had a dexterity save and it had wisdom save as it's set up.
That's why I'm glad there's other things you can target, you know?
Yeah, and then when Daleric used it on strength with his curse, I was like, oh, good, he can still smack the shit out of you with his dexterity. I was worried he was going to go with dexterity to give him disadvantage, because that's what it derived all of its attack stats from.
That's what I would have thought.
Only skills, not attacks, luckily.
That's what I would have thought, is the spider would have been really good on dex. I thought he would have for sure gone for the dex. I would have gone for the dex.
But it's only skill checks. It's not attack rolls or saves or anything. It's only skills. So it'd be like, if it's trying to jump over us to reposition, then it would have disadvantage. But with strength, it's like if it's trying to push through us. So like strength makes sense if it's a big creature, it will just try and push through. Maybe there'll be a chance.
No, it does make sense. It's just when I was thinking about it, I'm like, well, dex, it's a spider. Of course,
yeah,
dex.
like if it was attacks or saves, then maybe.
In general, he was a legendary creature that I designed, and so he never got to use his legendary resist, so that was one thing. He only had the one that, like, I was going to use that to shrug off like a major nuke or something, which I know upsets the player, but I was going to be like, yeah, but that was his one legendary save. So now he's got nothing going, and you made him burn a major fucking cooldown to save himself, which I know is like it's not a cool salve on the salt of a player who just unloaded on this thing, But at the same time, it still means that like you scared the monster enough to where he used up his major defense on it.
I agree. I don't find Legendary Resist a particularly nice system, but
Yeah.
they're the corollary of having such a simple system, and then you need to give something to big creatures that makes them able to do something, while at the same time running out of it and allowing the players to do something. It's like, fair enough. I can see why they're there. They're a patch.
Would it not have been
great,
possible to do the legendary save on that 54 damage attack?
No,
Legendary
because
saves
there was no
only
save
allow them
there.
to auto-pass a saving throw.
Yep.
It's stuff like if you have like Feeble Mind, like a really powerful, like I think it's like 7th or 8th level spell, which basically reduces them to like the sense of a wild beast. You come across a really powerful mage, he's an enemy. You're fighting him, Feeble Mind, oh, you can't use spells, you become like feral like a dog. I'm a mage, I'm gonna... Then they go, yeah, I'm using my Legendary Resist. I burned
Legendary
one of 3,
Resist is
normally they're 3.
It's a necessary evil added to the fact that high-level mages can basically disable anybody they want to. Once their stat bonuses get high enough, you're rolling against a DC like 17 or 18 at higher levels, they can take a creature and just be like, nah, I just nullified your entire boss. And so the developers looked at it and they were like, we've got people polymorphing dragons. What do we do about this? Legendary Resist? You know,
I'm annoyed I never got to level
it.
6, because I think it's my 6th bard level. I was going to get the spell from the Paladin book, which was effectively a spectral mount or something, and I was going to ask if I could have a wolf, which is actually less levels than a CR than a horse, because it makes sense from my background as a wolf rider. That's why I wrote that in there. And then I was going to eventually pick up Polymorph, because would you not? It's an amazing utility spell. And because Spectral Mount, any spell you apply to yourself applies to the mount, I was going to be like, I'm a T-Rex! Riding a T-Rex! I mean, I'd have to be a high level to make a T-Rex. You have to be like, I can't remember
You also
what
have
level
to
it is.
see a T-Rex or know that a
You
T-Rex
have to know
exists.
of it. Yeah, you have to know of it. Like, eventually, actually the reason that they exist is because stuff like Druid stuff needs to scale. It needs high-level beasts, and after a certain point, beasts stop existing, which is why they included dinosaurs in my view. But yeah, eventually I was going to be like, I'm a T-Rex, riding a T-Rex. Yeah!
Instead of dinosaurs, couldn't you just be dragons?
No, because dragons are ridiculously high CR, and I don't think you can beat them because they're not beasts. And
I think at
polymorph
max
beast.
level, the best you can do with a polymorph, the max you can do with a druid is like a 5 CR or 6 CR once you get up to like really high levels. But the balance is that when you get knocked out of it, you can shift right back in and you get full HP again over and over and over again.
I think you can become elementals if you go down the shapy one, and you can just be like a stone elemental or something and be like, yep, I die. Oh, I come back. I die. I come back.
That's my D&D character. I'm going to play a druid or a barbarian next time. I really like what they're doing with barbarians.
Druids are considered like almost OP because when they get level 20, they just, oh, you knocked me out of my form. I have infinite forms. Bonus action, back in my form, new HP. If I was to play another character in this, I would play a stone forged, like an ancient thing left behind by that crazy ancient race that the pirate would come across, and I'd just be a barbarian.
Yeah, you guys didn't do the Vanguard. That was the other consequences. He had to save you at the door, and so there was supposed to be 3 power cells. I was gonna have so the room goes back, and you run, and one person was supposed to spend like 3 turns dashing down a hallway. There's a console at the end, and the robot on the side of the console was gonna detach, and you got to pilot the robot, and it had all kinds of attacks and stuff.
We'd have got a mech.
Yeah. That fight was supposed to be nasty though.
I'd have liked to play a Stoneforge barbarian in this group, though.
I'm guessing we wouldn't have been able to get the mech out of the cave at the end.
Nah. But that fight was supposed to be a lot nastier, and I had to condense it for time because today was supposed to be the last episode. There was supposed to be Kisrathi flooding into there, too, while you were fighting the spider. And that was going to be the call to where it was like, we have to get the Vanguard. And so you guys were going to have somebody volunteer, basically, to abandon the group, to run down the hallway, get inside the weird little control thing, and then you would have the mech, which was just one-shotting Kisrathi every single turn, just, like, mashing him on one side.
It's okay, like, as soon as you sent in, like, 6 Kisrathi, Gray throws the orb, explodes some dynamite, kills 3. I then notice that the next 3 Kisrathi are right next to the dynamite, so I kill them. Like, we killed 6 Kisrathi in half a turn.
Yeah.
So, it's pretty good.
And then at that point, it's like, do I recycle ad nauseum until you guys run out of utilities to overwhelm you? Or do I just let you have your win because you played it smart and good things happen? I'm just going to let you have your win and let's move forward.
See, when that spider came down from the ceiling, I thought it was going to be followed by a whole buttload of Kisrathi. I'm super surprised that it was just a spider. I'm like, oh.
I wasn't sure the spider, if rolls had been bad on both sides, the spider would have bowled you guys over easy. You guys had really good turns, though, and you were flattening him at a speed where I was like, okay, this feels about right.
It had nasty
But if
attacks.
I put the Kisrathian, if I put Kisrathian at the beginning, I don't know how the dice are going to go. And so I might accidentally overwhelm you completely if the spider has like 5 good turns in a row. And then there's also Kisrathi to deal with. It's one of those things that in hindsight, absolutely, I would have put the Kisrathian on that fight because you guys were holding your own against the spider. But I didn't know you were going to do that. You've had bad fights before where mundane shit fucks you up.
Slightly below average on its damage, and like Mormond rolled like above average and did crazy good. And we still lost a party member almost. Like, you went down, you came back up. Like, I think that fight was pretty on the nose there.
Yeah, it was a good one. Any fight that threatens 2 characters, because Gray was close too. Gray was in rough shape after that first turn. He lost like upwards of half of his HP in 1 turn. So, you know, it was, I think the balance was just right for like a culminating boss fight at the end of a campaign. And then for the fight with the battle, I wanted you guys to feel like you were just a tiny part of it. And so...
Yeah, it did feel like that.
Yeah, I didn't want you guys to... I wanted to get to the point where you guys are level 5. You guys are the shit compared to a normal farmer. But compared to the forces like Ibn Turab and Ermok and those guys slamming into each other and doing things that's like knocking chunks out of mountains and shit, I wanted you to feel a little overwhelmed so that you have something to look forward to as characters where someday you will be Ibn Turab. You know, you'll be that guy that walks out on the battlefield and people chant your name because you're the champion. But for right now, you're a small action force that's handling little objectives so that the big guy doesn't have to worry about it, which I think is always a key part of D&D. Keep them thirsty for what's coming so that they want to be more powerful and be like, yeah, I want to be like Ibn Turab someday. I want to be like Karak someday where I just flatten people and they're like not even a threat to me.
I want to be Ibn Turab.
No.
Ibn Turab's got an interesting future in the campaign too.
He did.
Yeah,
He doesn't know what the Great Lady has
Can-
plans in store for him.
Can Mormon start forging some weapons and like maybe use some of Ibn Turab's essence to make like a rival spear
Combined with the spider leg.
Yeah, there you go.
They're going to give you the remains of his necklace at the beginning of the next season.
Now we're talking.
Ooh.
The thing that he crushed. You guys saw it in the first episode. That's why I brought it up. Tie-ins. He had that. Do you remember the glass orb that he wore around his neck?
So we're going to be able
Nasan
to
saw
like
it.
fix that?
No, but it'll definitely get you clues where this is going.
All right. So I'm not sure if it'd be good. It's like, well, now we have this thing that will explode in a nuclear blast, but
Oh yeah, it's
No,
already
No,
been
it's
utilized.
broken. Like, I'm pretty sure he unleashed the nuclear blast. It's like the casing of a nuclear warhead. It's like, it's a bit radioactive, but...
you can make something out of it.
It was a gift from his patron too.
Great lady.
So whoever has access to something like that, pretty powerful person
Amon.
thing.
We don't know.
It'd be quite cool if he comes into play,
You
seeing
guys
he's
are gonna have
the
to
Dwarven god.
find out who's behind the throne someday.
Maybe it's like a good dragon.
There's no such thing.
It was Lithia. She's sort of a dragon, right?
Yeah, but
Forget
she's
exactly
not
what kind.
She's
good.
also
There is
so
in
good.
D&D.
Yeah.
She's extremely
Eh.
neutral.
Yeah.
They're good
Yeah.
dragons at D&D. I think the metallic ones are good, or the chromatic ones are good, and the metallic ones are evil. I forget how
No,
it
the
is. in
metallic
D&D.
ones are good, the chromatic ones are evil. It's why black dragons are
Yeah.
bad, because they're black. Whereas they're
Yep.
not like bronze or
Wow.
silver or...
Why you gotta judge dragons like that, man?
The hell, EE.
God, right in the middle of a show.
Hey, if it helps, white dragons are just as bad.
Yeah, they think they're
What color? What color is What color are Davi's scales?
Purple.
He didn't line up with anything. The closest would be green. Same thing as green, but he's purple.
I thought they were purplish.
Yeah,
They
we
are
made
purple,
it
but
up
I mean,
in
there
character
is no
generation
purple.
because there was like no purple dragon that you wanted to be, so Splat was like, we make
Yep.
a purple dragon. It's a neutral dragon.
So I guess that's our after show for here. We've had a good talk here. I feel like we had fun talking about things that might be, could be, will be, have been. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for patronizing our channel for so long. It's a very cool thing to do.
And if
for
you're
those
not
of you on
patronizing
YouTube,
us-
we're gonna. Yeah, you get one of these basically every week if you're one of our patrons. So for the people on YouTube that might want to hear background story and kind of little leaks of information or what's coming next week, it slips out. It slips out from time to time. And then we also do kind of like talking about the characters and their stats and stuff like that. We will see you all next time with Stars Without Number, which is going to be starting up on Friday. Let me see what the date is. It's going to be Friday the 12th.
12th.
Friday the 12th. So join us for the first episode in Stars Without Number, which I
Man.
think is going to be a lot of Space cowboy fun.
I have generated you around 250 habitable planets and around 750 stars in a grid of about 1,600 units or tiles.
You think that might be overkill?
Probably,
No.
but to be honest, the generator scales, so it'll just be funny. I'm just going to give you a map, and it's not going to have anything labeled other than, this is probably inhabited, this is probably a star system, and you'll jump to it, and I'll be like, look it up on the table and be like, okay, this is what you
That'll
encounter.
be fun. That makes that makes everything the player's fault, so that like 2 weeks down the line when they've been stuck on a planet, they're like, fucking told you we shouldn't have come here. Like they just bitch at each other the whole time.
No,
like you were the one that cast the winning vote, you bastard.
Yeah,
now we're stuck here getting shot at.
That's why it's going to be fun, because it's a sense of exploration. Like I had a group that I did a one shot with, and I used the same map. And without too many spoilers, they jumped to the first planet, but they failed their navigation roll 3 times. They had they had 30 days of supplies. It took them 18 days to get to this first planet. They go to the first planet. It's a medieval planet. And the biosphere there is incompatible with human digestion. They end up resorting to cannibalism before they get any further.
Perfect. See, that's perfect. That's why you make more than one character.
None of them had the survival skill, so they end up eating part of his bowel and becoming very ill.
Well, join us on the 12th, and you'll find out if we resort to cannibalism in the first episode. How about that? This has been our D&D after show for the season finale. Anybody else got anything to say in closing?
I was going to say someone on the team is going to be a cannibal, whether they like it or not.
Avak.
Cannibal.
Avak.
Yeah, it's going to be Avak.
Definitely Avak.
We'll see you all there. Bye, everybody.
Roll safe.